The colony world of New was a quiet place. It had been quiet for 30 years. The people who lived there were farmers and shopkeepers and teachers. They grew wheat in the amber fields. They raised their children. They lived simple lives far from the wars that had once burned across the stars. Was one of these people, or so everyone believed. She taught history at the Frontier Academy, a small school on the edge of the main settlement. Her classroom had large windows that looked out over the wheat fields. She liked to watch the wind move through the grain while her students worked on their assignments. It reminded her of an ocean she had seen once, long ago, on a world that no longer existed. Was 47 years old. Her hair was turning gray at the temples and she wore it pulled back in a simple bun. She had a soft voice and a patient smile. She never raised her voice at her students, even when they were difficult. The other teachers thought she was boring. The students thought she was kind but ordinary. Nobody thought about her very much at all, and that was exactly how she wanted it. Today, she was teaching about the First Contact Wars. 23 students sat at their desks, some listening carefully, others staring out the windows at the autumn sky. The Empire attacked human space 60 years ago, said, writing dates on the digital board. They believed we would be easy to conquer. Humans are small compared to the... We have no natural armor, no claws, no venom. They looked at us and saw prey. A boy named Park raised his hand. He was 16, tall for his age, with serious eyes. Teacher, my grandfather fought in those wars. He says they still hate us. Paused. Her chalk hovered above the board for just a moment. Something moved behind her eyes, something old and cold, but it passed so quickly that no one noticed. Your grandfather is a wise man, she said. They have long memories. They do not forget their defeats. But they won't attack again, right? Asked a girl named Lee. She was small and nervous, always worried about something. The treaty protects us. Looked at the girl. She wanted to tell her the truth. She wanted to say that treaties were just paper, that peace was just the space between wars, that the only real protection was strength. But these were children. They deserved a few more years of innocence. The treaty has held for 30 years, said. We hope it will hold for 30 more. She turned back to the board and continued her lesson. But part of her mind was somewhere else, remembering things she had tried very hard to forget. The scars on her arms itched beneath her long sleeves. She had gotten them on a space station called, during a battle that had killed 10,000 warriors. The official records said the station was destroyed by orbital bombardment. The official records did not mention the woman who had fought through the station for 16 hours, killing everything in her path until they were so afraid that they bombed their own captured territory just to stop her. The official records said Operative 6 died on station. Had been Operative 6. She was supposed to be dead. She had been given a new name, a new face, a new life on a quiet colony world where nothing ever happened. For 30 years she had been a teacher. For 30 years she had not touched a weapon. For 30 years she had almost convinced herself that the woman she used to be was gone forever. But some things cannot be unlearned. Some instincts cannot be forgotten. That was why she always sat facing the door. That was why her desk had a false bottom containing a sword that could cut through armor like paper. That was why she knew the location of every exit, every hiding place, every defensible position in the school. Just in case. The class continued, asked more questions about the war, took careful notes. A boy named fell asleep at his desk and pretended not to notice. Outside, the wheat field swayed in the wind, golden and peaceful. Then the sky began to change. At first, thought it was a storm. Dark shapes were gathering on the horizon, blocking out the afternoon sun. But storms did not move that fast. Storms did not leave trails of fire across the atmosphere. She stood up from her desk and walked to the window. The students noticed the change in her. She was not moving like a teacher anymore. She was moving like something else entirely, something quiet and dangerous. Teacher asked, "What's wrong?" Did not answer. She was counting the shapes in the sky. Drop pods, military configuration, design. There were hundreds of them. The first pod hit the wheat field half a kilometer away. The impact shook the windows. A column of fire rose into the sky, and the golden grain began to burn. The sirens started a moment later, but by then, everyone already knew. They had come back. Turned from the window. Her students were staring at her with wide, frightened eyes. Children. They were just children. They had never seen war. They did not know what was coming. But she did. Somewhere deep inside her, in a place she had tried to bury for 30 years, something old and cold and patient began to wake up. The teacher was still there, standing in the classroom with her soft voice and her patient smile. But behind her eyes, Operative 6 was opening her eyes for the first time in 3 decades. And she was very, very angry. The classroom exploded into chaos. Students screamed. Some ran for the door. Others hid under their desks. Was crying, her small body shaking with fear. Grabbed his younger sister and pulled her close, trying to protect her from something he did not understand. Everyone stop. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the panic like a knife through flesh. It was not the voice of a teacher. It was the voice of someone who had commanded soldiers, who had given orders in the middle of battlefields while fire rained from the sky. The students froze. They stared at her with wide eyes. They had never heard her speak like this before. Walked to the center of the room. Outside, more drop pods were falling. She could hear explosions in the distance, the sound of plasma fire, the screams of people who were dying. The colony's defense force was fighting back, but she knew it would not be enough. New was a farming world. It had a few dozen soldiers with old weapons. They had brought an army. "Listen to me carefully," said. "There is no time for fear. There is no time for questions. You will do exactly what I tell you, and you will do it now." She walked to her desk and pressed a hidden switch. A section of the floor slid open, revealing a ladder that led down into darkness. "This is a maintenance tunnel," she said. "It connects to the emergency bunkers beneath the settlement. You will go down this ladder. You will follow the tunnel until you reach the bunkers. You will seal the doors behind you, and you will not open them for anyone except colony security. Do you understand?" The students nodded, too scared to speak. Looked at the boy. "You are the oldest. You will lead them, keep them moving, keep them quiet, do not stop for anything." His face was pale, but he straightened his shoulders. "Yes, teacher." "What about you?" asked, her voice trembling. "Aren't you coming with us?" Looked at the girl. For a moment, something soft flickered in her eyes, something that might have been love or sorrow or regret. Then it was gone, replaced by something hard and cold. "I have something else to do." She walked back to her desk. Her hands moved quickly, pressing hidden catches that the students had never noticed. The false bottom of the desk slid open, revealing a compartment that had been sealed for 30 years. Inside was a sword. It was not beautiful. It was not decorated with gold or jewels. It was a weapon of war, simple and brutal, designed for one purpose only. The blade was slightly curved, made from an alloy that could cut through armor. The handle was wrapped in leather that had been worn smooth by use. Picked up the sword. It felt familiar in her hand, like meeting an old friend, an old, dangerous friend. She strapped it across her back. From the same compartment, she took a small plasma pistol and 2 grenades. She tucked the pistol into her belt and put the grenades in her pockets. The students watched her in silence. They were looking at her like they had never seen her before. In a way, they hadn't. The woman standing in front of them now was not their kind, boring history teacher. This woman moved differently. She stood differently. Even her face seemed different, harder and sharper, like a mask had been removed. "Teacher," said slowly, "who are you?" Looked at him, she almost smiled. "I am your teacher," she said. "I am also someone I used to be, a long time ago, someone I hoped I would never have to be again." Outside, the sounds of battle were getting closer. She could hear warriors shouting in their harsh, clicking language. They were approaching the school. "You need to go now," said. "All of you move." Nodded, he helped to her feet and guided her toward the ladder. One by one, the students climbed down into the darkness. Was the last one. She was 12 years old, too young to understand what was happening, but old enough to be afraid. "Teacher," she whispered, "will you be okay?" Knelt down so she was at eye level with the girl. She reached out and touched her cheek gently. "I will be fine," she said. "Now go, your brother is waiting." Climbed down the ladder, watched until she disappeared into the darkness, then pressed the switch that sealed the entrance. The floor slid back into place, hiding the tunnel completely. She was alone now. She walked to the door and listened. She could hear footsteps in the hallway, heavy and rhythmic. Warriors. They were searching the building, room by room, looking for humans to kill or capture. Drew her sword. The blade made a soft sound as it left the sheath, like a whisper. She had hoped she would never have to do this again. She had hoped she could live out her life as a teacher, peaceful and forgotten. But hope was a luxury, and war did not care about hopes. The footsteps were getting closer. Took a deep breath. She let go of 30 years of peace. She let go of the quiet life she had built. She let go of the woman she had tried to become. And she became the woman she had always been. The door burst open. A warrior stood in the entrance, massive and armored, its plasma rifle raised. It saw an empty classroom, desks and chairs and digital boards. It saw a single human woman standing in the middle of the room with a primitive blade. It laughed. It was still laughing when Sword took its head. Class was dismissed. The lesson had begun. The warrior fell to the floor, its body crashing against the desks with a sound like thunder. Green blood sprayed across the walls. Before it had finished falling, was already moving. Two more warriors stood in the hallway behind the first. They were tall creatures, almost 3 meters high, covered in natural armor that looked like black stone. Their eyes were red and many, clustered on faces that had no expression a human could read. They carried plasma rifles that could burn through metal walls. They were soldiers of an empire that had conquered 100 worlds. Killed them both in less than 3 seconds. The first one tried to raise its weapon. She was inside its guard before the rifle could aim, her blade sliding through the gap between its chest plates. The second one fired, but she was already gone, rolling beneath the plasma bolt and coming up with her sword in a rising arc that opened the warrior from hip to shoulder. She did not pause to look at the bodies. She moved down the hallway, her footsteps silent on the floor. 30 years of peace had not made her slow. 30 years of teaching history had not made her forget how to make it. Behind her, she heard more entering the building. She counted the footsteps. 8 warriors, heavy armor, standard patrol formation. Good, she had been worried this would be too easy. They did not know what they were facing. They thought they were attacking a soft target, a farming colony with no real defenses. They thought the humans here were weak and helpless. They did not know about Project Sheath. 30 years ago, at the end of the first contact wars, the human military had faced a problem. They had soldiers who were too dangerous to keep in normal service. These soldiers had been modified, trained, and broken in ways that made them perfect weapons of war. But weapons like that were difficult to control. Weapons like that sometimes hurt their own side. So the military had given them new lives, new names, new faces. They scattered them across the frontier colonies, hiding them in plain sight. Teachers, farmers, shopkeepers, ordinary people living ordinary lives with extraordinary monsters sleeping inside them. Was one of these monsters. Her official designation had been Operative 6. She had been part of a unit called the Ghosts, soldiers who specialized in impossible missions, infiltration, assassination, the kind of work that never appeared in history books. Her kill count during the war was still classified, not because it was shameful, but because the numbers were so high that nobody wanted to admit a single human could cause so much death. They knew her by another name. They called her the Ghost of Station. They told stories about her to frighten their children. They believed she was dead, killed when they bombed the station from orbit just to stop her rampage. They were wrong. Reached the end of the hallway and pressed herself against the wall. She could hear the patrol approaching from the left. 8 warriors, moving in 2 groups of 4. Standard room-clearing formation. They would split up and search both wings of the school at the same time. She pulled one of the grenades from her pocket. It was a fragmentation model, designed to send metal shrapnel in all directions. Very effective against unarmored targets. Less effective against whose natural armor could stop most small projectiles, but was not aiming for their bodies. She waited until the first group passed her position, then rolled the grenade beneath their feet. The explosion caught them in the legs, in the joints where their armor was weakest. 2 warriors fell immediately, their legs destroyed. The other 2 stumbled, disoriented. Was among them before the smoke cleared. Her blade found the gaps in their armor, the soft places where flesh met shell. She killed with precision, with economy, with a cold efficiency that came from years of practice. Each strike was exactly where it needed to be. Each movement flowed into the next. She did not think about what she was doing. Her body remembered everything. The second group of warriors came running at the sound of the explosion. They found their comrades dead, and a single human woman standing among the bodies, her blade dripping green. One of them recognized what it was seeing. It said something in the language, a word that understood, a word that meant ghost. Then it turned and ran. Let it go. She wanted it to carry a message back to its commander. She wanted them to know what was waiting for them on New. She wanted them to be afraid. Fear was a weapon too, and was very good at using it. She moved through the school, clearing room after room. Every warrior she found, she killed. Some fought. Some tried to surrender. She killed them all the same. There was no mercy in her now, no kindness, nothing but the cold calculation of war. By the time she reached the main entrance, she had killed 14 of them. Her sword was chipped in 2 places. Her arms were tired. A plasma bolt had grazed her side, leaving a burning wound that she ignored. Outside, she could see the colony burning. Drop pods had landed throughout the settlement. Warriors were everywhere, shooting at anything that moved. The defense force was fighting back, but they were outnumbered and stepped out of the school and into the chaos. She had protected her students. Now it was time to protect everyone else. The Ghost of Station had returned, and this time she would not stop until they remembered why they had feared humanity in the first place. Commander stood in the command center of his ship, watching the battle through a dozen screens. The invasion was going well. The human colony had almost no defenses. His warriors were moving through the settlement without resistance. In an hour, perhaps less, New would belong to the Empire. Then the reports started coming in. At first, did not believe them. A single human was killing his warriors, not with a gun or a bomb, but with a blade, an ancient, primitive weapon that should have been useless against armor. His warriors were dying anyway. The numbers climbed quickly. 10 dead, 20, 30. Each report was the same. A human female moving through the colony like a shadow. No one could stop her. No one could even slow her down. Felt something he had not felt in decades. He felt afraid. Find her, he ordered. Send everything we have. His tactical officer pulled up the historical archives, searching for any record that might explain what they were facing. The answer came quickly, and when saw it, his blood ran cold. Operative 6, the Ghost of Station, had been a young officer during that battle. He remembered it like a nightmare because that was what it had been. A single human had infiltrated the station and killed more than 200 warriors in 16 hours. She moved through the corridors like death itself. No one who faced her survived. They had been so afraid of her that they bombed their own station from orbit. They destroyed everything, killing thousands of their own soldiers just to make sure she died. But she had not died. She had been here on this quiet farming world, hiding in plain sight for 30 years, waiting. Pull back the forward elements, ordered. Concentrate our forces on the main settlement. She is one human. She cannot protect everyone. He was right about that. Could not protect everyone. The colony was too large, the too many. But she did not need to protect everyone. She only needed to buy time. When the colony's distress signal had gone out, a naval patrol in the next star system had received it. Those ships were now traveling at maximum speed toward Nu. They would arrive in approximately 4 hours. Needed to keep them busy for 4 hours. She needed to make them so afraid, so focused on finding her, that they forgot about conquering the colony. She could do that. For 3 hours she fought a war of shadows. She never stayed in one place for long. She struck from buildings, from alleyways, from the smoke of burning fields. She killed warriors and disappeared before their companions could respond. They started seeing her everywhere. They fired at shadows. They shot at each other by accident. Their communications became confused, filled with fear and anger. Officers argued about what to do. Warriors refused to search buildings alone. Used every trick she had learned in a lifetime of war. She collapsed a building on a squad that was chasing her. She found the colony's irrigation system and flooded the streets, drowning warriors in their own heavy armor. She set fires to cover her movements and used the smoke to attack from unexpected angles. Her body was failing. The wound in her side was bleeding badly. Her arms were heavy with exhaustion. She had not fought like this in 30 years, and she was not as young as she used to be. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Every minute she kept fighting was another minute for the ships to arrive. Every warrior she killed was one less to threaten her students, her neighbors, the people she had lived among for 3 decades. Finally, after 3 hours, she ran out of room to retreat. The head pushed her back to the school, the place where this had all started. Behind her was the bunker where her students were hiding. In front of her was an army. Stood at the entrance of the school and waited. Commander came personally to face her. He was old for his armor from 100 battles. He carried a weapon that could kill her from 50 meters away. Behind him stood 100 warriors, all of them aiming at her. Operative 6 said, "The ghost of I watched you kill my soldiers 30 years ago. I thought you were dead." Looked at him. Her sword hung loose in her hand. Her body was covered in blood, most of it green. She was smiling, but there was no warmth in it. "Everyone thought I was dead," she said. "I like it better that way." "You cannot win this," said. "You are one human against an army. Surrender and I will make your death quick." Laughed. It was a cold sound like ice cracking. "I don't need to win, I just need to keep you here." Did not understand. Then he heard the sound, a deep rumbling from the sky like thunder but sharper. He looked up and saw light splitting the clouds, the light of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 6 warships, human military, battle group formation. The orbital bombardment started 3 seconds later. Watched as fire rained from the sky. The drop pods exploded one by one. The command ship in orbit broke apart under the assault. Warriors ran in every direction, their formation destroyed, their commander screaming orders that no one could hear. Turned to face her one last time. His eyes were full of hatred and fear, and something that might have been respect. "This is not over," he said. "For you it is," replied. She moved before he could raise his weapon. Her blade found the gap in his armor, the place where his hearts beat together. He fell slowly, his massive body crashing to the ground like a falling tower. Around her, the battle was ending. Human soldiers were dropping from the ships, securing the colony, destroying the remaining forces. The war, at least for today, was over. Fell to her knees. Her sword dropped from her fingers. The world was spinning, and she could hear voices calling her name from very far away. She had won, her students were safe, everyone was safe. For now, that was enough. 3 weeks passed. The wheat fields were burned, but the farmers said they could replant. The buildings that had been destroyed were being rebuilt. The dead were buried in a cemetery on the hill overlooking the settlement, where they could watch over the colony forever. Spent most of those 3 weeks in the medical center. Her wounds were serious. The plasma burn on her side had gone deeper than she thought. She had broken 3 ribs, torn several muscles, and lost enough blood to kill a normal person twice. But was not a normal person. The modifications that had made her a weapon of war also made her difficult to kill. Her body healed faster than it should. Her blood regenerated quickly. After 3 weeks, she was able to walk again. The first thing she did was visit the cemetery. There were 47 names on the memorial stone, colonists who had died in the attack, soldiers from the defense force who had given their lives to slow the advance, a teacher from the other side of the settlement who had hidden her students in a basement and refused to leave them. Stood in front of the stone for a long time. She read every name. She tried to remember their faces. Some of them had been her neighbors. Some of them had been parents of her students. All of them were gone now. She did not cry. She had forgotten how to cry a long time ago, but she stood there until the sun began to set, paying her respects to the dead. When she finally left the cemetery, she found waiting for her at the gate. He looked different than he had 3 weeks ago. He stood. His eyes were harder. He had seen things that no 16-year-old should see, and those things had changed him in ways that could never be undone. "Teacher," he said, "can I walk with you?" Nodded. They walked together down the hill, past the burned fields and the half-rebuilt houses. The colony was coming back to life around them. People were working, laughing, living. It was amazing thought how quickly humans could recover from disaster. "I've been thinking about what happened," said after a while. "About what you did, about who you are." Did not respond. She knew this conversation was coming. She had been expecting it. "The other students are scared of you now," continued. "They don't understand how their quiet history teacher could do the things you did, has nightmares about it, says he doesn't want to come back to school." "And what about you?" asked. "Are you scared of me?" Was quiet for a moment. They walked past a house that was being rebuilt. Workers were hammering on the roof, their voices loud and cheerful. "No," he said finally. "I'm not scared. I'm grateful. You saved us. You saved everyone." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "But I want to understand why. You could have escaped through the tunnel with us. You could have hidden in the bunker and waited for the military to arrive. Why did you stay and fight?" Looked at the boy. She thought about all the things she could tell him. She could explain about duty, about honor, about the oath she had sworn decades ago. She could tell him about the people she had lost in the war, the friends who had died so that humanity could survive. She could explain that once you became a protector, you could never stop protecting, no matter how tired you were, no matter how much you wanted to rest. But those answers were too complicated. They were the answers of a soldier and was not a soldier. He was a student. So she gave him a different answer, a simpler one. "Because some things are worth protecting," she said, "even if it costs everything." Thought about this, then he nodded slowly. "Will you keep teaching?" Almost laughed. It was a question she had been asking herself since she woke up in the medical center. The military had already contacted her. They wanted to reactivate her commission. There were stirring along the frontier. There were rumors of a new war coming. They needed soldiers like her. She had the skills. She had the training. Part of her, the part that had never really stopped being Operative 6, wanted to go back. Wanted to fight again, to feel the clarity of battle, to do the one thing she had always been truly good at. But then she thought about her students. She thought about and all the others. She thought about the look on their faces when she told them to run, the fear and the trust mixed together. She thought about the children they would become, the adults they would grow into, the futures they would build. And she made her choice. "Yes," she said, "I think that's exactly what I'll do." Smiled, it was a small smile, but it was real. "I'm glad," he said. "I think the class needs you. I think we all do." They walked back to the settlement together. The sun was setting behind them, turning the sky orange and gold. Somewhere, a child was laughing. Somewhere, a dog was barking. Life was returning to new, slowly but surely. 1 month later, the new semester began. The school had been repaired. The desks were new, the windows replaced. The digital boards were upgraded to the latest models. Stood at the front of her classroom. Her hair was pulled back in a simple bun. Her glasses sat on her nose. She wore a modest dress that covered the scars on her arms. 23 students looked up at her. Some were new, transferred from other settlements. Some were the same students who had followed her into the tunnel on the day the sky fell. All of them knew who she was now. All of them knew what she could do. But none of them were afraid. They looked at her with something else in their eyes, something that might have been admiration or hope or love. Smiled at them. It was a soft smile, patient and kind. "Today," she said, "we are going to talk about history, about the wars that shaped our civilization, about the heroes who fought so that we could be here in this classroom on this day." She turned to the digital board and began to write. Behind her, hidden in the false bottom of her desk, her sword waited in the darkness, just in case. But did not think she would need it. The best way to protect the future was not to fight for it. The best way was to teach it, to give the next generation the knowledge and the strength and the hope they would need to build a better world. That was what teachers did. That was what teachers taught. And was, above all else, a teacher.